Good afternoon. I'm Shawn Childs, or good evening, good morning, whenever you see this. Shawn Childs, fantasyanalyst.substack.com. I write for Fantasy on SI, which my thing says Shawn Childs on SI Fantasy, which is I use for some of the other Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and stuff I'm trying to develop, but for YouTube as well. But I wanted to take some time. I did my main event last on Saturday night. This is Monday night. I'm still in Las Vegas. I have a draft tomorrow, which is my CLQ Champions League qualifier, and hopefully I get that one right. I figured the main event on Saturday was going to be the most difficult of all, especially with the pitching getting up. So I decided to do it last. Preferably, I'd prefer to do it first because I'd rather get in front of some of the draft flow. So I just want to going into the draft. Normally, I'm not a big KDS guy, but I thought I could take advantage of my thought process by moving to the middle of the draft because I wanted to start my teams with Paul Skeens. And the main reason is I want to get a pitching edge, and I thought he was a difference maker. And Tyreek Skubal is an excellent pitcher, and he has a lot of upside. And I actually have him rated a little ahead of Skubal. If it was a coin flip, I lean towards Skeens because I thought that he was a big guy, a horse. He would pitch, 32 starts, 6 innings a game, get to 192 innings, and I really liked what his potential, and he could get better. As for Skubal, my only red flag for me is that he pitched great, but he pitched a lot more innings than the year before, so I don't know if it affects him. He doesn't have a proven long resume like an Aaron Nola or somebody that's made 32 starts for a bunch of years in a row. You kind of know what you get, and even Wheeler has pitched a lot. So Skeens was phenomenal last year, was great. Just not sure how he would handle innings. So going into this, I wanted to take Wyatt Langford in the second round. I was hoping that he would make it. And then in the third round, I wanted Pete Alonso. So I wanted kind of a balanced guy, a middle of the lineup hitter. And ideally, I would like to say, if I had those two players, the perfect player for me, what I wanted to do would be like a CJ Abrams in the third round, which wasn't really going to happen. I probably had, a 5% chance of that breaking. I think his skill set's a little mismatched. So I'm going to go through how the draft went, but I also want to go through what I was thinking when I was doing it and why I made some decisions and what my game plan was. So here's the draft board that I have here. And so Skeens did make it to me pick 8 in pretty straightforward. It didn't matter who was going to make it. I wasn't, it would have been tunnel vision. I'm going to take Skeens, and I was going to take 3 hitters in a row. As you can see, Wyatt Langford went 1 pick before me, so that forced me to make a decision. And ideally, when I'm doing this, Scooble went at the end of the to fit the team 15, so he kind of slid, and Garrett Crochet was the second pitcher. So if there was a pitching run, it potentially could have helped me because then maybe a better hitter would have fallen to me. I would not have taken Duran of the Red Sox no matter what. I just think that he is a guy that had a career year, a little bit older. I don't like buying guys on off those top seasons, so I'll pass on him, and I wouldn't have taken Chisholm. And Tatis would have made it. I would have been interested, but in general, the reason I went to Trey Turner is because the same reason I mentioned earlier is that Abrams was kind of the player of interest, and I knew that the shortstop was kind of a target in the 4th round for me. So Turner doesn't have probably explosive in steals, but he brings a better batting average, and potentially more help in RBIs and home runs. I think Abrams could be better, but anyway. So I just want Trey Turner. He burnt me last year, one of my main events, missing some times, and he's really not had a monster year in a few years where he just kind of he ran a lot. I mean, I think he stole 30 bases a few years ago and wasn't caught. Alonso was a guy that I wanted that foundation power hitter. His over-under was 35 home runs. He's going to hit behind me 2 great hitters, and I just thought he was an edge in power. And a lot of people were dismissing the power, as you can see in this draft, that Olsen went relatively early. I know Team 15 really, really well. Had conversations with him, and the draft really broke strange for him. He wanted like an Olsen or Olsen or Alonso on that 3-4 turn, and a lot of drafts that was making it to him. Unfortunately, the team 1 took the power early, but Freeman slid. But I was taking Alonso no matter what, and it's just the way it went. And he knew going into the draft that Alonso was there for me in the 3rd round, that I was going to take him. So I took him. The guy next to me, team 9 was going to take Alonso, so he got Langford. I got Alonso, and I sniped him. So here's the first decision. So it flows. In the back of my head, I might have doubled at shortstops. I mentioned Abrams. It would have given me a little balanced skill set of speed and power. Not quite the 75 I thought of originally on. I might have been pretty close in both areas, but I didn't think he would make it. He went early. I was never taking James Woods. I don't want to take a young guy that's kind of needs to prove it. So when Abram was coming down, I thought that I would go to Michael Harris, maybe more of a 20-20 guy that could hit for average. Not sure of his lineup slot where he's going to hit in the batting order, drive enough runs, but I thought he would be better this year. But I'm looking at it. I didn't do any drafts this year where Ronald Acuna slid far enough where I thought that I should make a decision. And I really thought about this for 30, 35, 40 seconds. Is can I really take Michael Harris over Ronald Acuna, even if he misses 4 or 5 weeks to start the season? Acuna brings a lot to the table. Even if he doesn't run as much as expected, if he steals 25 bases, that's still probably going to be more than Harris. The home runs will probably be comparable. The runs are going to be high. He could potentially hit for average, but he does come with risk because he's coming off an injury, and we're not going to see how he reacted because the last time that happened, he did not play well. So ultimately, I took Acuna because this is a main event, and I was going for the overall title. I have to take a swing. In the next round, in the 5th round, Bryce Miller was the guy that I wanted to take, but I knew going into all the main events that I wanted to kind of catch the drop off at the closers I thought that had some value where they were pretty secure for saves. And Ryan Walker was a guy that I was comfortable with. I thought he would pitch a lot of innings, and even for his handcuffs goes really, really late, so I could potentially lock up that bullpen. The Tanner Scott went at the end of the 5th, 5-6 turn there. I guess I just still in the back of my head, I'm not comfortable that for sure that he's going to get all the saves, and he could be pretty good, and walks are in occasion. So I looked at Walker. I said I have to take him. If I don't, I have to let Bryce Miller go, and hopefully the pitching talent that I like, that one of them slips to the 6th round. And Bybee was a player of interest, and Hunter Green was another starter that I was interested in. So I traded off. I took the saves, and I came back with a pitcher. But when I was on the clock for my 6th round pick, Ozzie Albies made it to me, and this is a really probably an important decision. And if I'm in a different league, and more of a home style league or something where I have an advantage, where I know the player pool better and the draft flow is a lot different, Ozzie Albies was a great value for me in there, and really a guy I considered. But because this is a main event, and I'm trying to be balanced, and I'm trying to win an overall, I knew if I took Albies and didn't take a pitcher, I could be, even with Skeens, I got a frontline guy, I could get behind the pitching. And I'm taking Skeens. I'm positioning myself where I want to have a strong foundation of starting pitchers, and I took saves. So I'm trying to be strong on that side, and I'm trying to get enough offense. So I passed on Albies. The gentleman before me took McLean, which is, that's about where he goes, and he probably thought that Albies wouldn't make it to him either, but he chose McLean. He stuck to his guns. Even the team 7 right after me considered him, but he slipped one more spot. But that was a great value. But like I said, I went for the player to keep me in line with the pitching. Green pitched really, really well last year, so that was important for me. The next guy up was, the pitching that I liked. I liked Hunter Brown a lot. I had him in a breakout pitcher of the year. He was the only other pitcher that I thought would, give me a lot of innings and give me strikeouts that I liked. I mean, there's other pitchers that are good. The Igmanaga guy from the Cubs struggled in his openings game. I had him as a yellow guy, which means I liked him. He just never was presented. Same thing with Acuna in my thought process, because he always got drafted earlier. So he slid a little bit behind some other pitchers he normally gets drafted because of, the short innings. And even with the short innings, he pitched, okay for 4 innings, but he's going to get a second start. So I could potentially get like 9 innings out of him in the first 3-day period, which is a 5 for their team, and he could be helpful. So I took the position with him, pitched really well last year, gives up a few too many home runs, and went with that. and then came in the next round. I kind of thought that I knew coming into the draft that I was fading second base, most likely. It just seems like a position I'm comfortable with and a position that I would like to get speed. And I'm not saying totally fade it. Like if Bryson Stott or Jimenez from Toronto made it to me, I was very interested in them, but they had to fit my plan. But when Bichette was there, I thought that he potentially free agent year could kind of break. Some, really good players like him as well. I don't, you know, I don't think that I'm thinking he's a lock to be a total stud, but I understand his talent and he should bounce back, and it's the right kind of play. And so, in other words, so now I take Bichette. I really have like a really good second baseman and a really good shortstop, but it's just the reverse. I'm filling the middle with second base. So I have a good play, two good players in the middle infield. And when I was making that pick, I knew that I wanted Josh Lowe in the next round. He goes a little later in drafts. He's just really a balanced speed guy that I really wanted, based how I was going to build my team. Unfortunately, I knew that if I passed on him, that potentially a couple other people were going to be interested. And he might not swing back to me. And somebody in some of the ADPs, he went a little bit higher. So I felt like he had a pretty good chance to make it to my ninth round pick. But at the same time, he did have risk. And if I lose that player, that outfielder could potentially steal 30 bases or more, where am I going to go? Am I going to take Dominguez? I mean, Pete Crow Armstrong went earlier, and those guys were kind of going in the 10th round. But when you get to the live events, they know where the power is, they know where the speed is. These guys are really, really good players, and they know where the good pitchers are. So they move up the pitchers, and then they kind of targets the pieces of the puzzle. So it broke really well for me there. Next round was kind of open. If Kirby would have, George Kirby would have made it, I would have considered it. Alcantara was a pitcher that I would have considered, and I would have been just hammering the pitch. And there really wasn't any closers. But ultimately, because I was behind in, I think that overall power, and I have a little bit of risk with Acuna, and I'm not sure where he's going to play, I decided to take Logan O'Hoppe, some power at catcher. Really had short RBIs last year, 56, but he only 254 runners came to the plate. I believe it's about that number. So the Angels really didn't score a lot of runs, so his opportunity wasn't there. I think he could really projected well for me, even though I didn't kind of fell in, I was excited about some other catchers after him, and I thought they were fair value, and I would be okay with some other ones. So if I didn't take Logan O'Hoppe, I would probably take Wells from the Yankees in the next round. But at the same time, third base for me kind of dropped off, and I didn't. I wanted Baum in the next round in front of his ADP. I just wanted a decent player. He's going to hit in the lineup, and he's a type of guy that could potentially pop. But he's steady, been around a few years, and I like what he brings to the table. The only thing he's lacking, he had 25 home runs next to all his other stats. He would be a lot more attractive. So we'll see if he kind of gets there. But so after the first 11 rounds, I feel pretty comfortable who I drafted, and I thought I read the draft flows pretty well. The only other thing that I probably, like I said, is if I would have got the pitchers, that would have been a little bit different. So let me see if I can find this other draft board to move it up. So if I can do it, I can do it right here. Sorry, I got to do it in the other spot. I'm kind of a rookie at this. It's draft board. Where are you? I think it's here. Maybe it's behind the screen. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. I'm being a rookie of the year here. So I think we're at Low, Hoppy, Bomb. So on the next pick, coming into the, like I said, I mentioned about the Bryson Stott, second base. Now, this is the area where I would be interested in Stott, but at the same time, Brandon Pfaadt is a pitcher that I really thought he had upside, could potentially be a lot better this year. The strikeouts, I expect him to ever make a run at 200. I wanted a fourth really strong pitcher, and he fit the profile. And if Stott would have made it back to me, I was interested, but at the same time, I was really high on Christian Encarnacion Strand, but I also knew that if I didn't take him in the next round, I was at risk of missing that guy, because there was a few other owners in this league that potentially would have took him based on knowing that I was liked him. Plus, they've read some of my content. So I got the pitcher I wanted, got a fourth really good pitcher. I'm fading saves, and I'm going to try to work that out later. Took the catcher, so I take Christian Encarnacion Strand. I came back with Shane Baz. There was a couple other pitchers a little more proven, Eovaldi, a longer resume. But Baz, I just went with a guy that had upside. He's really struggling in spring training, walking some guys, and it just didn't look right. And Rasmussen has outpitched him, and he potentially is a guy that's been moving up. So he was a consideration. But Baz is a guy that when I did the research, I thought he had potential to pitch 150 innings, get a lot of strikeouts, and be an improved pitcher. So I have a fifth player that I like. I needed outfielders, but I don't really like the options that were there for me. If Kerry Carpenter would have made it to me, I was definitely interested in him, and the Team 12 made a good pick to take him before that because he potentially was in play for me. And then basically the next round, Nolan Arenado, I'm going to lock up my DH with a guy that's a veteran player coming off a down year. His batting average was 270 something, 70 runs, 70 RBIs. Those numbers are okay at this area of the draft. He just didn't have the home runs. He had 16 home runs, doesn't strike out a lot. Could he be better? Yes. Is he on the decline? Maybe, but I just think that he's the type of guy that I'm willing to swing. I'll take the veteran guy. So I missed on the second baseman, like I mentioned earlier, but I wanted speed. So Miguel Garcia was the guy that I chose. If he had 10 home runs, I would really be surprised. Last year was really a fan favorite. He underperformed in batting average. He did get 37 steals, so he fit my profile. And it was really important by taking a guy like him that I was strong with potentially power at catcher position, because I can't have two catchers that get 15 home runs and then have a middle infielder that's going to hit 5. That's really going to put me behind. So I'm going to give up some there. If I could do well in steals for this team, I can potentially add a little power at second base later on. So he fit what I wanted. And he might even his ADP might have been a little later than this. But I was taking the players I thought that fit my game plan within a range. Next round, they took pitchers, ran off. I wanted to stay on the gas of the pitchers. Same thing as I really needed outfielder. I thought May in the ceiling was really, really high. Spencer Steer was somebody I was thinking about, really slid. If he would have made it one more round, I would have definitely taken him in, and he was still kind of fair there. Matt Wallner went earlier in that round. He was a consideration. Jones, the team won back-to-back outfielders were Nolan Jones was a guy that was interested in as well. So the outfielders kind of went off the board a little earlier. So I didn't just take the next outfielder. I had some other players that I was willing to roster. At the same time, I knew that the outfield would have options during the season. If that's what I have to fix, I might be able to fix 1 or 1.5 spots, as long as it's not the right, a big power hitter or, somebody that has to steal a ton of bases or something like that. So I came back with Francisco Alvarez. I really liked the discount there. Didn't really have to force him. I got the other players I wanted, got him at a fair price. I think he'll be back by the end of April, potentially still hit 20 home runs, 22, 23 years old, could pop. Gave me that second catcher, so I might potentially get, 40 to 45 home runs out of my catchers. O'Hoppe might steal a few bases, so it really kind of fit. I probably made a mistake in the next round as I took Sal Frelick. I really liked his spring. He seemed like he was progressing. Still kind of messy with 4 outfielders there, but he gave me that extra guy that potentially could run, and if he could hit a few more home runs. But if he falls in that 10 range, it's going to hurt me a little bit. But I liked him a lot, and he was the outfielder I liked the best. But I probably should have taken Alec Burleson. I made a mistake there in having tunnel vision on my draft sheet. At the time, I was thinking, all right, let me get me this. It's the third outfielder, but one that I need to cover because Acuna is going to be out, so I can probably cover a little bit of his speed there. So I should have taken Baldwin, which is kind of, he was fading as far as, people liking him because they thought that he would lose playing time and stuff like that. But I really like his approach. He had 9 steals, I believe, last year. The home runs were there, didn't kill you in batting average. And where he goes is really, really a nice price. And I didn't get him, and that, like I said, that might come back to haunt me unless I can replace that. So I took that, came back. Outfielder still didn't really want to reach for a guy that I really wasn't a fan of or what I was trying to do. So I came back with took Boyd. I took him in the NL. Only other league I took him in, Matthew Boyd. Just thought he was a guy that pitched really well coming off an injury, and he would be helpful to rotate in, if not, earn a more important spot on my roster. Orion Kirkering was a guy that I really wanted to have him as an upside second possibility. I really actually wanted him as a third upside closer, but I didn't really want to force saves earlier if I thought it was a guy that had job loss risk or injury. So Kirkering fit the upside guy. I can roster him, stick him in. I really need to find a second save if this team's going to be competitive and make a run at overall. So when we're there, and then in the next round, I took Evan Carter, and this is where Evan Carter looks like he's in a split role. He's a talented guy that kind of failed and battled a back injury last year. It's not even like I really was gravitating towards this year. But because I was kind of beat at the outfield position, I took the player that had upside, and I'll try to work it out later on and see what happens. Vargas is a guy I really like this year. He probably went a lot later, and I was like, well, I probably should place the bet on the outfielder that I like that potentially could break out, then try to finesse somebody and get him later on. And Vargas is a guy, if you look at his stats for in the majors, they line up pretty good in steals, runs, RBIs, and even home runs, but he hit like 176. But he didn't strike out a lot. So there's a lot there for his profile. And he also qualifies at third base. And not that I have an issue at the middle infield, but if I had an injury later on. So I really like what he brought to the table. Pavin Smith, when I did the research, really thought he was going to be a guy that could potentially be a 20-80 player, even if he was a platoon and didn't face lefties. A little banged up at the end of spring, but I think he's okay. But because I was weak at outfield, I wanted to get somebody that I could throw into my lineup and cover it. And I really needed one more outfielder because if Carter's more of a split, I got to be careful and try to put somebody with little more at bats. I took Brady Singer just as a more of a veteran pitcher that has potential, that has struggled and been up and down. I really hit on him a couple of years ago when Strider had his big rookie season. Singer was pretty impressive that year. So if Singer's going to Cincinnati, more pitchers bark. But he was okay in spring training. Gives me an eighth pitcher that I can kind of rely on. Came back to me. I was actually, when I was talking about the outfielders, I know I was looking at Varsho of Toronto when I took Evan Carter. And if he would have made it back to me, I would take him. Even if he would have started the year on the DL. But I just thought that, he's a guy that would steal double-digit bases, 25 home runs is a possibility. Pretty late in the draft and hurt me in batting average. But he was a player that I was willing to take, but he went a little earlier. So that's where I was going. And I probably should have taken him in front of Evan. He got drafted in front of Evan Carter. So I probably would have taken him for sure on that pick. And then, Roman Anthony went after Carter, a little different profile for upside. So it came back with Singer, MJ Melendez, former catcher that is in the outfield, really kind of didn't live up to expectations. His counting stats were really down. One of those retool my swing guys, took a shot with him. I can slide him in the lineups, see what happens, and we'll work on the waiver wire, try to upgrade one or two of those outfield spots as the season go on. Because I was light in saves, I went for Liam Hendricks, Red Sox. The talk hasn't been great about him. Everybody's down on him, but there's no risk. 27th round, I can watch him for 2 weeks and dump him. And then it was really important for me to back up Ryan Ryan Walker with Camielo Duvall. I was able to execute that. I was really happy about that, especially where I feel like I'm kind of bare at saves. I don't want to have a guy lose a job and then I'm really struggling at two spots. So I think that hopefully I have two guys in San Francisco and I can hopefully have all their save or most of their saves all year. I went for Lance McCullers. Really doesn't have enough innings, but I think he has potential to be upside and be better. He would be he's going to be another guy they don't have to carry. So it could get tricky. Maybe not the first weekend where it's 3 days and maybe the next week because they're going to skip the fifth starters a lot. So getting enough innings isn't really like a lot of starts. The second week is kind of difficult anyways, unless they just line up for you. So I'll roster him, see where he goes. And I tried to get a cover for Alvarez. I thought Davis might make the team. I really wanted Andy Rodriguez, but he went really high in this league. I think for they probably saw that he made the team. I don't know exactly where he went, but oh, there he is. He went in the 25th round, so a lot higher than I was looking for as a cover. But I think that's a really good buy that for the owner that got him. And but Davis ended up getting sent down, so I cut him and I picked up Sean Murphy from the Braves, who's another guy that's hurt. And it looked like maybe he would be out a month or 6 weeks. So I figured, you know what? Maybe I take a zero the first week, a week and a half, but maybe I catch 2 weeks out of him, and then we'll reevaluate where I'm at the catcher position, just in case Alvarez is slow out of the gate. So I'm going to take a little bit of hit for Acuna, a little bit of hit for the second catcher position, and I have one other position player that I'm going to struggle with an injury there. So, but those are some of the thought processes when I'm putting together. I think I'm just in a different frame of mind than a lot of people drafting this year. It doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm betting my opinion on the players that I did on the research. I would like this team have been to get a little better second closer, and I wish the outfield broke a little bit better, but I think the starting pitching went well. I think I got enough speed where I should be competitive, and we'll see if we get enough power. And it's really going to hinge on how good Acuna and Alonso and I really need like Trey Turner to kind of have a really good season and stay healthy. So that's what I was thinking in this draft. And I have one final draft, like I said, Tuesday night and I have in Las Vegas, and it's pick 8 again. And a friend of mine back home said that I should take Scooble on the draft if I want to go with the pitching, in the first round thing. And I'm still going to go with Skeens because unless he gets picked 7, but I'm not going to release this until the draft is, unfortunately, I'll probably release it so when the draft's already started and it's like in the, half an hour into it, I'll release it. Not that anybody's going to watch it, but I'm going to take Skeens because I want to Skeens with Langford. So I'm going to try to build the front of it. But what I'm going to diversify is my second and third starter, potentially my fourth starter, so that other pitchers would be a little different. Maybe I get a second closer and see. So the other parts will be diverse. I'll be diversified, but I'm going to shove in on Skeens. I mean, I made a bet, did the research. I like him, and this times, if you got 20 something teams or you have a lot, more teams vested, but I'm going to place the bet on the players I like. And so that's what I was thinking. That's so we'll see what happens tomorrow night, and hopefully the season goes well and we'll go from there. Thank you.